Colorado yet once again shows the rest of the republic how democracy works. Even though I was very disappointed with the lack of, you have to get a whole bunch of signatures now to put ballot initiatives on Colorado's ballot, they still have, it's not just referendum, but they have initiative and they have recall, okay? So the recall laws, which comes from, well, I don't know, Article 21 of the Constitution, but the recall, they're trying to recall the sheriff, Fremont County Sheriff Jim Beicker, B-E-I-C-K-E-R, Beicker. We're going to go with Beicker for the rest of this broadcast. So, who is this Jim Beicker? Well, apparently he's a Republican. He's been sheriff for since 2003, but he's come under scrutiny due to 3 officers being placed on administrative leave. There was a civil lawsuit that was filed in that. Jim Beicker seems to think that he's more important than George Washington. George Washington stopped after only 2 terms, but Jim Beicker's now in his 4th term as sheriff, and he's already served 2.5 years of his 4th term. He ran unopposed in 2014. But is it because of intimidation? Is it because of bullying? So his office come under scrutiny this year because 3 officers were placed on administrative leave for doing some shit. And then civil lawsuit was filed in the death of an inmate at the Fremont County Jail. So some inmate died at the Fremont County Jail. And then there was the overbroad confiscation of horses in an alleged animal cruelty case, which led to the judge's order to return 24 of the animals. So the Jim Beicker is going around sitting there confiscating all these horses. He's letting people die in his jail. And then what were the 3 officers placed on administrative leave? Why did that happen? Let me tell you. The petition to recall Sheriff Jim Beicker was filed by committee members Rick Ratzlaff and Debbie Weger, both of Cannon City, and Penny Gingerich of Penrose. So Cannon City is where they're probably going to kill Nathan Dunlap, right? I guess that's where the electric chair for Colorado is in Cannon City. Now, this Rick Ratzlaff, okay, so Mr. Ratzlaff had purchased the contents of a storage unit that once belonged to former Lieutenant Robert Dodd. Now, Robert Dodd had some evidence in a decade-old homicide in the storage unit, and that made him, he was placed on administrative leave after that was found out during a Colorado Bureau of Investigation probe. Then they said that they received the bulk of the investigation on 2 DVDs. Some items are missing, but Dodd resigns his post on Sunday after 112 days of paid. Fremont County freedom fighter committee member Weger was falsely arrested for a DUID last November by Fremont County Sheriff Sergeant Aaron Hart, who was placed on administrative leave in March pending an internal affairs investigation into the allegations that he mishandled several DUID cases. Weger has been told her case is due to be dismissed when she returns to court June 16th. Committee member Gingerich is charged with 40 counts of cruelty to animals after 63 of her horses were seized from her Penrose Ranch in January, and a judge ordered 24 of the horses returned to her later after the ruling of the seizure was deemed overbroad. But still, 63 of the horses were seized, but 24 of them were returned back. So they took too many of the horses. But what the hell? Why? How come? Is it okay that those other horses were taken away? What? Why were the? Ratzlaff says that Jim Beicker doesn't respect the job. He doesn't talk with the community when issues come up. He allows corrupt officers, and he's heard complaints, but did not do anything about Hart until Colorado State Patrol Trooper G.E. Muse filed a report. Says he's got an inmate dying in the jail. His officers have a Facebook page where they talk about people in a very unprofessional manner. It's time to clean up and get Cannon City off the news, said Ratzlaff. Elections clerk Jamie Goff said the committee has until June 26th to gather 4,166 signatures to take the recall issue to a vote. So they have to get 25% of the population in the last election. So 25% of the population, that's, a quarter of the people just to recall him. That's a lot of people, 25%, and then you got to get the majority to vote. So if you already got half the people that you need, 25%, right, you need 51% to win. If you already got half the people you need to sign the petition, if they're able to get the petition signed, I say sayonara to Jim Beicker. The race is on June 26th. They got to get enough signatures in order to recall Jim Beicker. If it was close to a general election, then the election day would be on the same day, but there's no general election in sight for, months. and the election won't be held before 30 days or after 60 days. So after 2 months, that the petitions are turned in and they're successful, if they get the 200 signatures that they need, then there's going to be an election. There's going to be a recall election for Jim Beicker. And I don't know if they're going to have a replacement sheriff or not. It seems like they can nominate somebody, but it's a recall election is just to kick the bum out, kick this guy out. So it seems like they're going to have somebody to replace him, right? They're just going to be without a sheriff, or there's going to be some interim government. This is all, the recall election is Section 1 of Article 21 of the Colorado Constitution. That's where the number of valid signatures, the 20 major recall campaign with the House. When it came to the House of Colorado, there was 2 candidates or 2 representatives, I want to say either the House or the Senate, that had voted for gun control measures, and then there was a campaign to oust them. So former senators, State Senators Angela Guerin and John Morse were recalled by the voters and replaced with Republicans after they supported gun control measures opposed by the Republicans. Now, there's more laws that are passed because they said that the recalls were plagued by confusion because of outdated elections code. So, for one example, federal law says that you have to get the military and overseas voters to vote. And so they says that the state constitution only gives 15 days before a recall election to qualify for the ballot. Well, 15 days isn't enough. The elections code set different requirements for petition gatherers for a recall election versus other ballot efforts, such as initiative and referendum. Right? So the Section 1 state officers may be recalled. Every elective public officer of the state of Colorado may be recalled from office at any time by the registered electors entitled to vote for a successor of such incumbent through the procedure and the manner herein provided for, which procedure shall be known as the recall and shall be in addition to and without excluding any other method of removal provided by law. In fact, they've had a ton of recall elections. Just in 2017, there was Daniel Dick and John Hamlin recall, Federal Heights, Colorado, Wanda Goforth recall, Crawford, Colorado, Park Hospital District Board recalls in Colorado. It's the City Council recall, Otis. So the entire City Council was recalled. Greg Stokes recall, Broomfield, Colorado. Jim Beicker recall, Fremont County. Ballotpedia has a nice little list here. It goes all the way back to 2006. There's 2009. There's 6 people or positions that were recalled. 2010 looks like there's about 7. 2011 there's about 10. There's about another 10 2012. Another 10 in 2013. Another 10 2014. 6. 5 in 2015, looks like about 10 to 15 in 2016, and then it's getting to be about 10 for 2017. So 10 positions in 2017 are being recalled, including our man, Jim Beicker, at Fremont County, which is right next door to Pueblo. So the one thing also I noticed, these Article 22 of the Colorado Constitution, Section 1 through Section 4, every single one of them has amendments. So there's the law, and the law is pretty lengthy, and then you get to the end of the law, and it says, oh yeah, there's 2 amendments, that was added to this law. The recall election of 2013 was the first time that a state legislator in Colorado had been recalled. So that's, that sucks for John Morse and Angela Guerin, and it had to do with the gun rights, and I don't even know the specific bill, but they were recalled. And then they were replaced with Republicans George Rivera and Bernie Herpin. But then in 2014 Senate elections, 13 months later, both Rivera and Herpin were defeated by their Democratic opponents. So you had a recall election 2013. Then 2014, they were just overturned again, right? So the 2 original ones didn't get back in there, but the Republicans were ousted too. So there's a high turnover rate here in Colorado. So that's, if you're in an elected position and you piss off enough people, 25%, if they could get 25%, then Jim Beicker is gone. He's gone. So Jim Beicker, you shouldn't have let that guy die in jail, There's an article here talking about the turnout rate, and you have the Senate president. John Morse was the Senate president. He was a Colorado Springs Democrat. So they went after the top head, enchilada. And then they tried to go after another one, and then that Democrat, instead of going through a recall election, just resigned the post and then handed it off to somebody else, which I don't know how legit that is. I guess if you're the name on the petition, then they'll have to get a petition to oust somebody else. And then if it's a brand new person, what can you say? They voted wrong? Well, they didn't vote at all. So the Senate President John Morse was a Colorado Springs Democrat, and then Senator Angela Gyron was a Pueblo Democrat. So Pueblo, this is, she got ousted for support for stricter gun laws passed in the 2013 session. In El Paso County, Democrats gained ground. Last week, Republicans accounted for 41% of the votes cast, but the GOP vote now is 38%. So that was figured. Lawsuit was claimed. That's how we even know about this man dying unnecessarily, but it was an inmate in the Fremont County Jail. He died in custody in 2014. He was denied prescription medication. He was beaten before his death. So 53-year-old John Walter, R.I.P. John Walter, he had 9 broken ribs and other injuries when Fremont County Sheriff's deputies found him naked on the floor of his cell April 20th, 2014, so just 3 years ago. The lawsuit accuses guards of injuring Walter while trying to restrain him as he suffered withdrawal from clonazepam, a psychotropic medication generally used in the treatment of anxiety. Walter stopped taking his regular dose of medication when he was booked into jail April 3rd on investigation of assault, menacing, and reckless endangerment. But Ed Beicker, Jim, why is it Ed? Jim Beicker, right? It said he didn't respond for the comment. So John Walter, 53 years old, died. So Cannon City resident Rick Ratzlaff is the one who's leading the campaign, and he's not backing down. He officially filed a petition with the county clerk, and then they have 60 days to obtain, 4,200 more signatures. Jamie Goff is the election director at the clerk's office, said that when someone files a petition, they suggest the person obtains 30% to 50% more signatures than required because not everyone who signs a petition may be an eligible registered voter. Goff said a recall election can't be conducted during the regularly scheduled election and that it must be separate because the recall would be for a county official. Goff said ballots would go to all registered voters in Fremont County regardless of political affiliation. So ballots would go to all. So they're passing ballots out because that was a big controversy here with Pueblo was that you had to go in person and there wasn't any mail-in ballots. So they said that that was a big issue. But, I think it's actually a little bit better. So immediately there's a big sort of hoopla about the $85,000. So they said that the typical cost of a general election would be about $85,000. The cost comes from printing the ballots and the postage. So they print up the ballot, and then they got to send it out to all the registered voters, and then that's $85,000. So that's assuming that it gets, approved. And then they say that the funding is provided through the clerk and recorder's budget, which is essentially funded by the taxpayers. And then the ballot measure has a 200-word argument stating the grounds for the recall, along with a 200-word rebuttal. So that means Jim Beicker have to say, no, look, I'm not guilty, and this is the reason why I'm not guilty. I'm not corrupt. I'm not corrupt, guys. Hey, guys, Jim Beicker, Ed Beicker is going to have to say that. Goff said potential successor candidates will have to gain more than 900 valid signatures themselves to be placed on the recall election ballot. Some more information about Lieutenant Robert Dodd. He worked with Fremont County Sheriff's Office. He had resigned Sunday, so just recently, after he was on paid administrative leave for 112 days. So he had a nice paid vacation, right, for 6 months or so, being paid. I mean, how much did he get paid, right? Was that $20,000, $30,000? This comes following the discovery that a storage unit he owned contained evidence linked to the 2006 murder of Candace Hiltz. Why would he have evidence in his storage locker of Candace Hiltz 2006, and then since the storage locker was sold, that means he didn't pay for it, right? He let it go up, didn't pay for it, somebody else bought it, and then they found that there was evidence in the storage unit. It said that Ratzlaff purchased the unit in January, made the connection. He showed it to Sheriff Beicker. The victim's mother, Dolores Hiltz, said that she and her family will sign the petition, and they said that the sheriff is in way above his head. He goes along with just showing. So the charges were pending. They took all the horses to a secured holding facility. So 63 horses were seized on Friday. They said January 20th, 2017, the Daily Record staff. And 63 horses were taken. The seizure happened on the 1000 block of L Street. It's part of an investigation handled by Sheriff's Office, the Colorado Humane Society, and the Denver Dumb Friends League. I don't know why. Why would you call yourself the Denver Dumb Friends League? And the sheriff didn't release the owner, but eventually 24 of those horses are going to be ordered back. So only half the horses were being abused. I need to know the full story about these damn horses, because why would you sign the petition if it's like, look, yeah, we beat up half the horses, but the other half we didn't beat up, and so that's not fair for you to point out that we beat them all up, or, you know, we only beat half of them up. We're only abusing half of them, not all of them. Come on. Nobody should die. I'm on board with that person who died, Mr. Walter. He didn't deserve to die. I don't know why. He had 9 broken ribs, right? And then they said he wasn't even getting his medication. So that's how jails are. Jails are oppressive. And go do this, go do that, you know, move over here, and then, you know, abuse, and then they're being hit. So the jail thing I'm with, the murder thing where it's in his, you know, storage unit, he needs to come out and say what the hell's going on, because Robert Dodd, he officially retired on Sunday after 25 years of service, so they're going to say he was stellar, but they found a bloody rope, an axe, and boxes of paperwork, and they said it was you know, purchased, or they said that it was the 2006 murder of Candace Hiltz, a 17-year-old who was found dead August 15, 2006 in her family home in the Copper Gulch area. She had multiple gunshot wounds. So why does a quick Google search didn't come up with who and why this, you know, Candace Hiltz was killed? She was fatally shot in her family home in 2006. She was only 17 years old. So this is, you know, just 11 years ago, and it's a cold case, so nobody knows who did it. But for some reason, a sheriff's officer had bloody evidence in his locker. Why wouldn't it be in the police station? Isn't there some sort of protocol? It's not put it in your own, you know, storage. And then why would he save it, right? He had to have known, if he was covering this up, he would have known that it was there in the, you know, storage unit. So why, it seems weird, why would he save it, right? Why wouldn't he try to destroy it? What was he holding on to it for? I would like to know what the hell he actually, what does Robert Dodd have to say about this? There's a bloody rope, there's an axe, 2 blood-stained socks inside a manila envelope labeled evidence. That's what they found in this Robert Dodd. It was a cold case because they never found who the killer was. The brother was a person of interest, but that was it. He was never charged, so they didn't have enough evidence to charge him with anything. Now, the CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, has launched a probe into why evidence from her case was removed from the police records and kept in a sheriff's personal storage. Detective Dodd had been placed on administrative leave, so he gets that, you know, vacation. And then the family was furious. They said that the hidden evidence is proof of a cover-up, and they want justice for their, you know, murdered loved one. So R.I.P. Candace Hiltz. She was only 17 years old. She didn't deserve to die, and then she didn't deserve, you know, this entire cover-up. She does need justice. We do need to get justice for Candace Hiltz. Whoever killed her, we need to find out, okay? There was arrest affidavits for James Hiltz, who was her brother. That was found in the storage unit. To, you know, thicken the plot, you have open records request. Colorado Open Records Act and Criminal Justice Records Act was filed, FCSO. So the Daily Record had filed, you know, the open records, and they said that they wanted to know all the official actions, the arrest, indictment information, case dispositions, judicial determinations, and they said that there's a previous request for a 911 recording, and the transcripts from August 15th, 2006, the day that Candace Hiltz was found dead, was denied. It was denied. So, you know, it's one thing to say that they didn't have the 911 recordings and the transcripts, but be like, nope, we're not going to give it to you. Why not? Why wouldn't they say what the 911 recordings and the transcripts were? This is a cover-up. This is such a cover-up. You need to be transparent, be forthcoming with information. I don't trust these goddamn people that keep the cards so close to their chest. So, R.I.P. John Patrick Walter, Mr. Walter, 53 years old, who was found dead, naked, in the floor of his cell after he's deprived of his prescription medication, and he was beaten. He had 9 broken ribs. And that's when they found him unresponsive. 29-page complaint alleges the guards injured Walter during efforts to restrain him as he suffered withdrawal from clonazepam. And then let's go back to the county attorney. The county attorney writes why they didn't want to comply with the 911, you know, the open records request about the 911 recording. Brenda Jackson, she says, the sheriff determined that disclosure of the records would be contrary to the public interest as the records are part of the criminal justice investigatory files and are actively being reviewed by law enforcement agencies and connected with an investigation. Okay, Brenda Jackson. The Fremont County attorney, Brenda Jackson, is also covering up, the murder. More details with John Patrick Walter, the 53-year-old who was found naked on the ground, dead. When he was booked in April 3rd, they made him go cold turkey. So they knew about the 6 milligrams of clonazepam that he was taking, but they said, nope, you're gone. You're not taking any more drugs. We're not going to administer any more. And then you have first-degree assault, menacing, and reckless endangerment. And they said all those were felonies. Menacing, reckless endangerment, and first-degree assault. There are felonies on the suspicion of them. So he was charged with 3 felonies. What the hell did they say he was doing? Then they said that the psychotic break that he had from reality was so profound he would scream and kick and punch and claw on the walls and the door in an apparent effort to escape imaginary people in his cell. So he's having this mental breakdown, and they used pepper spray, a stun gun, restraints, brutal physical force to control him. And the 200-pound Walter shed 30 pounds in less than 3 weeks. Then it goes on to say that he refused food and drink. He shook uncontrollably, and he lost control of his bowels. He also went days without sleep. Those that are named in the lawsuit are the Fremont County Sheriff Ed Beicker, who oversees the jail, the Fremont County Board of Commissioners, 8 corporations associated with contracts to provide medical care for inmates, 2 doctors, 2 nurses, and more than 20 other individuals, many of them sheriff's deputies. This took place over a 17-day period, and it's our belief that there are a lot of people who participated who saw what was happening and failed to put a stop to it. So this is great. Whoever this lawyer is that is following up with this is amazing. He is really paying attention to every single detail. So let's see, Fremont County Coroner Randy Keller didn't respond to an email request for a copy of Walter's autopsy report. He had a prescription for methadone to treat opioid addiction. Jail medical personnel put him on a tapering schedule where his dosage was gradually reduced. So the HEP, H-E-I-P-T, I guess he's the one that's filing the lawsuit, which is important, the man who filed the lawsuit. He says that it was a sham investigation. They had a 6-page death investigation report, but the Fremont County officials refused to turn over surveillance video and other materials that could shed light on Walter's treatment in custody. And then the lawsuit comes 1 week after another in-custody death at the Fremont County Jail. Former state correctional officer, a jailer, Gregory Smith, 57-year-old Gregory Smith of Colorado Springs, collapsed in the kitchen on March 10th, 1 week into a 100-day sentence for trying to sexually assault prison inmates. So that's actually a good thing that a jailer was put in jail, okay? So a little ironic, but at least he was caught. He was trying to sexually assault prison inmates. He's put in jail, and then he dies, but they said that no foul play was suspected. So who knows why he died, but Gregory's lawsuit is coming on behalf of Walter's sister, Colorado Springs resident, by Seattle attorneys Eric Hept and Ed Budge. So E-R-I-K, Eric, H-E-I-P-T, Hept, and then Ed Budge, B-U-D-G-E. So Eric Hept and Ed Budge are the one who filed this lawsuit, and then they're saying that no foul play is suspected with Gregory Smith. So that's an interesting case. He died in jail, so I don't know why he died in custody, but how many times do jailers get away with rape and sexual assault and nothing ever happens? So it's good that he was put back in jail, Gregory Smith. Not good that he died. It said that he just collapsed in the kitchen, 1 week after his 100-day sentence. So he could have, just 3 months in jail is all he gets for, sexual assault. But did he kill himself? Is that what happened to Gregory Smith? This sheriff deputy, Robert Dodd, he knows something, okay? So Dodd, he had to have gone to the sheriff's basement, taken the evidence out of the evidence room, and then put it into his storage locker. And it says, why would you keep all that? And probably to cover something up, right? Either he's covering himself up or he's covering up somebody else. And then Beicker and FCSO Commander Jeff Worley came to inspect the shed. Ratcliffe had made a secret audio recording. But he said at first, when he told that Jim Beicker, he says that Dodd and fellow Fremont County Sheriff Jim Beicker swiftly contacted Rick Ratzlaff, the guy who found the storage locker, and told him not to tell anybody else what he found in the storage locker. Hey, don't you dare tell anybody what you found in there. That's corrupt as shit, Jim Beicker. If you're not part of Dodd's murder, why would you try to cover it up? But he was sheriff since 2003, so Beicker was sheriff. Ratzlaff was attracted to the unit because he saw a police cruiser light, in the storage unit, and so he didn't know what else was in the unit. But there's a lot that's going on here, okay? So you're going to have, they're going to have an argument. There's going to be a police officer, and they don't say who the police officer is. But they're saying that they had long suspicions about the daughter's death. They said days before her daughter was murdered, a cop had visited the family home over accusations that the son, her brother, James, had trespassed on somebody else's land. The daughter became upset over the deputy's tone and ended up losing her temper and shouting at him. When he threatened to arrest her, she responded, this is Candace Hiltz, she responded that she had seen the officer accepting envelopes from drug dealers. So he's on the take, he's corrupt, he's sitting there, taking money from drug dealers. And so she was saying, well, I know about you, you can come after me, but I know about you. And the officer's name isn't even mentioned in this, so we don't even know who this police officer was that was in this house that was accused of being on the take with drug dealers. So NZ Herald, right? This is New Zealand. I think it's New Zealand. But anyways, it goes on, and it says that the family dog was found murdered 3 days later with an axe tied to a tree with a blood-stained rope, both of which were found in the storage unit. So they found the axe where they killed the family dog, and then they found the rope which they used to, that was used to hang the dog. So they found the rope, they found the axe, and for some reason Robert Dodd has all this. Is Robert Dodd the person, that was, the man that was on the take or that was confronted in the family home? 2 days after the dog was hung and killed and chopped up with an axe, Candace, a teenage mother, was found almost decapitated and stuffed under her bed. Blood was splattered all over the house. And then they said that she was shot in the front and the back. The Fremont County Sheriff's Department is absolutely corrupt. And the fact that he had told that man, Ratslaff, who's the hero of it, right? This man is the one that got the storage unit, and then he's the one that told the truth. He's the one that contacted internal investigations, and he confronted them, and he even, audio recorded them. So he could have been in danger. Now, Candace, she was put under a blanket. She was shot 7 times. Let's see. Candace was going to go to Stanford Law School, so she was a progeny, right? She was still a child. And then Candace, let's see, her mother is the one that found her wrapped in a blanket underneath the bed. And then Dolores Hiltz discussed how the investigators didn't take all the evidence. There was bullet casings that were left behind, and then the bloody blanket that her daughter was wrapped in was left behind. And they left the evidence in there for 3 days, she said. And then Dolores Hiltz and Jonathan Hiltz went to the... And her mother and Jonathan Hiltz, I don't know who that is, but they went and got plastic bags and they bagged bullet casings up themselves to take it to the officers. So this is being bungled. This isn't even being bungled. Now, I wish I could say that this was just, them being absent-minded. This is, deliberate covered up. They're not investigating because they know who did it and they don't want anybody to find out. So that's fucked up, isn't it? When the police are corrupt and then they're the ones taking the lead investigation into it, and they said that there was 2 millimeters in the investigation in the coroner's report. The mother is sitting there saying that it was all a bunch of lies. The coroner's report had said that she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend was married, and the boyfriend was the one that had found her. And then, so it was just bullshit. It was just like they just wrote something down because she said she was the one who found it, and then she said it was her friend's son. So it wasn't even a boyfriend to Candace. So, and then the guy was unnamed anyways. Dolores Hiltz, she's on it, man. She is on it. She says that there was only 2 casings. There was only 2 different bullets, a shotgun shell, and then possibly a 22 millimeter. But the details in the autopsy said there was 3 calibers of bullet casings, 3 calibers. So there was only 2 calibers, right? But then she said that the evidence shows that her daughter was shot by 2 people in the front and in the back. And then it says that she was shot a total of 7 times, 6 times in the head and once in the chest. And she said that she faced one of the killers, and then she believed that whoever shot her daughter in the back was standing on a love seat that was in the room, which is why the paths of the bullets were described in the autopsy as pointing steeply downward. So somebody's standing elevated, they shoot down at her, and then there's 6 bullets in front of her. And then they said the shotgun shell was in Paige's cradle, which is her 11-year-old, daughter, 11-month-year-old daughter. So shotgun shell, was that just a warning? Was that just a message? More quick things I want to mention regarding the recall of Jim Beicker, the Fremont County Sheriff. There was a missing man, and then there was the other man who was released on. There's 3 officers released on administrative leave. One was going after DUIs, like too aggressively or didn't do it right or something. And then the other guy was a dare officer that had an inappropriate relationship with one of his students in the 90s. And so that's, let's see, his name is, Briscoe. And Briscoe happened to be, Lieutenant Briscoe happened to be one of the detectives in the initial murder investigation of Candace Hiltz. So Briscoe, who's having inappropriate relationships with, his students, the DARE students, he was the initial person in the investigation. And then you also have this missing man, Gene Fish. Gene Fish bought a 35-acre rural tract in Fremont County in 1999, then added a house in 2003. He was served with the Air Force, then worked for the Naval Criminal Investigative Service and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. But he was last seen by his wife, Lynn, on June 21st, 2004. He stormed away, frustrated with his life, but his pickup truck reappeared in their driveway a day or two later. And then they said that they wanted to give a polygraph test to her, but then she got lawyered up and they said, stay away. And then they never did anything. And nobody's ever heard from Gene Fish, who would be 66 years old today. He never used his passport, his credit cards. He never contacted any of his large circle of friends and colleagues, including Faith Liebman. So what's up with him? Is this, this would have been in 2004. This would have been 2003. This would have been when, Jim Beicker first became sheriff. So a lot of skeletons coming out of the closet. Jim Beicker's got to go. Kick Jim Beicker's ass out. 2003, and then he says, don't tell anybody else about this. Don't tell anybody else about this. Why was it covered up? If there is a if there's a reason whatsoever, you got to say it. You got to say what this reason is. Because I don't believe him. I think that either the sheriff knew about it or he knows that one of his deputies did some shady shit and he wants to cover his buddy up. And so kick the sheriff out. He was there since 2003. This happens in 2006. He was a new sheriff at the time, right? And then she's sitting there saying that she was going to rat on them being on the take for taking drug dealing money, and then she was killed a week and a half later. So these are people that have killed before. So these are very dangerous people. And Rick Ratzlaff of Cannon City should be the new sheriff until new elections elect a different sheriff. Make Rick Ratzlaff your sheriff of Fremont County, at least for 2 years. Shit's shady, from beginning to the end. You have bloody socks, you got an axe, you got that bloody rope, and then you have all the information. So it's totally related to the 2006 cold murder case of Candace Hiltz. And then the sheriff telling, that Rick Ratzlaff, that, hey, don't tell anybody else about this. Why not? What's up with that? Go after, find the real killers. Who are the real killers? And Robert Dodd, he was on administrative leave for about 6 months. None of the freedom, of information requests, the open records request, the 911 tapes, or any of the transcripts of the 911 call, that wasn't, they rejected, they denied that. And as much as they like to say it's an open investigation, it's been a cold case for over 10 years now. It's 11 years. So, yeah, tell the public what's going on, because your fucking, sheriff's department has totally failed on this. In fact, it's a good thing that there is the Bureau of Investigations, the CBI. So, good that there's a probe, but I don't know if I trust them either. Shit. You need to get somebody that the people can actually trust. Let Rick Ratzlaff, let him, lead the investigation. Let him get a posse and let him, try to find out who actually did this, because that's all you're going to have is the people that's in power. That's the only way you can be corrupt, is if you're in power, right? The powerless people can be evil but not corrupt. To be corrupt implies that you have power. So they're totally corrupt through and through. And then this Lieutenant Detective Robert Dodd, he's been on the force for 25 years. So, he knows the ins and outs. He knows what can be hidden, what can't be hidden, how things work and how things don't work. And there's probably plenty of places to bury somebody. And then they've killed her so gruesomely, almost decapitated her, right? 6, 7 shots, almost decapitated Candace Hiltz, a Stanford law, progeny.